All right, everybody. Ready for a deep dive into a sentence that's, well, a little different.
Different might be an understatement.
We're talking about buffalo, 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 buffalo,
Hey, wow.
buffalo.
And you've actually given us quite the reading list on this one.
Yeah, we've got that blog post by Alex R. Howe, the Wikipedia article, even some Redditors getting in on the action.
It seems to have captured a lot of imaginations. So where do we even start with a sentence like this?
Howe breaks it down piece by piece, really gets into the nitty-gritty of how buffalo can be a noun, an adjective, a verb. It's like this sentence is playing all the parts.
It really highlights the flexibility of English, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
How the same word can have such different functions depending on where it sits in a sentence.
Like a linguistic chameleon. But there are rules, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's where things get interesting. The sentence hinges on something called restrictive clauses.
Those are the ones that give you essential info without needing commas, right?
Exactly. It's like in that Chicago bison example, somebody on Reddit came up with Chicago bison, bully, bully, Chicago bison.
I have to admit, that one's a lot easier to wrap my head around.
It shows how our brains naturally use context to make sense of things, even when the grammar gets a bit wild.
But this isn't some newfangled internet thing, is it?
Not at all. The Wikipedia article traces it back to the 60s, with Dmitry Borgman, who is known for his wordplay, crafting an early version.
So it's like this sentence has been hiding in plain sight, waiting to trip people up.
It seems that way. And it's still going strong. Those Redditors were coming up with all sorts of variations. Police, 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 police. The possibilities seem endless.
It's kind of amazing, actually. Like, language can be fun. But let's be real for a sec. Why should we care about a sentence that seems designed to give us a headache?
Because it challenges us to think differently about something we use every single day. We take grammar for granted, but this sentence throws it right in our faces.
It's like, oh, you think you know how English works? Think again.
Exactly. It shows us that language isn't static. It's a system with rules, yes, but within those rules, there's room for creativity, for playfulness, even for a little bit of absurdity.
I like the way how it puts it. He says it's like finding a secret passage in a library.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
Suddenly you've got a whole new section of language to explore.
But, and maybe this is just me, is it really good communication if it's this hard to understand?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The sentence is grammatically sound, no one's arguing that. But does it actually work if the meaning gets lost in a sea of buffalo?
Right. How it talks about adding in words like which or that
Yeah.
to clarify things.
Those little words act like signposts, don't they?
Yeah.
They guide our understanding. But the buffalo sentence, by using the same word over and over, it takes away those signposts.
So you're driving through the sentence and there's not a single road sign in sight. No wonder it's so disorienting.
Exactly. And that brings us to another layer. This whole thing about punctuation, or rather the lack thereof.
You know, I was just thinking that it's like one giant run-on sentence, but somehow it works.
And it works because of those restrictive clauses we were talking about. They don't need commas because they're providing essential info.
It's like you wouldn't say the car that's parked outside is blue. It sounds weird with a comma there.
Exactly. But here's the catch. That lack of punctuation, while grammatically correct in this case, actually makes the sentence harder to understand.
Because in real life, we use punctuation to help us make sense of things.
All the time. Commas, periods, dashes, they're like road signs guiding us through a sentence. And this sentence, it's like they took all the road signs away.
So you're driving blind, basically. No wonder I feel a little lost.
It really underscores how much we rely on those visual cues, even if we don't consciously realize it.
But punctuation isn't the only thing making this sentence tricky, is it?
Not by a long shot.
Hmm.
Let's talk about ambiguity for a second, because this sentence is practically swimming in it.
Yeah, even if we can sort of break down the basic structure, buffalo from buffalo bullying other buffalo from buffalo, it's still not entirely clear what's going on.
Precisely. The sentence leaves so much to the imagination. How are these buffalo bullying each other? Is it physical? Verbal? Are we talking about a whole herd? Or just a couple of buffalo having a bad day?
Maybe it's very passive-aggressive kind of bullying. We'll never know.
And that's part of the fun, isn't it? It's like the sentence is a starting point, a prompt for all sorts of interpretations.
It's like those ink blot tests. Everyone sees something different.
But isn't there a point where too much ambiguity is, well, too much? Like, does it stop being meaningful if it's too open-ended?
No, that's a question that takes us into some deep philosophical territory.
It's kind of like, if a sentence exists but it's so hard to understand, does it really exist?
Well, you're definitely hitting on something there. It makes you think about the purpose of language in the first place. If we can't understand each other, are we really communicating? It's almost like I wrote a note, but in a language I don't even understand. What's the point, right?
But even then, there's something to be said for the effort, for trying to decipher the code. Like, even if we don't crack the Buffalo code completely, the mental workout we get trying is valuable in itself.
Yeah, I can see that. It's like the more we wrestle with these ideas, the more we learn about how language works, even if we don't end up with a neat and tidy answer.
Exactly. And isn't that true of so many things in life? Sometimes the journey is more important than the destination.
I like that. So we've explored the sentence, we've dissected it, we've probably even driven ourselves a little crazy thinking about it. But what's the big takeaway here? What do we walk away with after spending all this time with buffalo, 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 buffalo?
For me, it's a reminder that language is a living, breathing thing. It's full of surprises, and sometimes those surprises come in the form of a sentence that seems determined to break all the rules, yet somehow still manages to follow them.
It's like language is playing a game with us, and the rules are always changing.
And the more we play along, the more we discover about this incredible system we use every single day.
Well said. This buffalo sentence has definitely given us a lot to think about. So as we wrap up this deep dive, any final thoughts for our listeners out there? Anything to leave them pondering as they go about their day?
Just this, keep an eye out for the unexpected. You never know when a seemingly nonsensical string of words might unlock a whole new understanding of the world around you.
Words to live by. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and most importantly, keep those brains buzzing.